Attack on Titan Chapter 120, A Fleeting Moment, is out with official translations, and this month we're treated to more contextual information with both plot progression and character development, as well as a heavy move towards what can only be described as the real end game. So, let's begin. The start of this chapter gives context in regards to the exact point I've been bringing up for months now, and that is how the baseball is symbolic in understanding Eren and his decision to either trust and agree with Zeke's plan through catching the baseball or dropping it, thus symbolizing he has his own agenda. This is presented right at the start, and later confirmed by Eren himself. It's small, but I'm glad to finally see this imagery amount to something. The title of this chapter is also indicative in how the entire chapter itself is happening outside of the time constraints of the real world, focusing mostly at the center of all pathways with the power of the founder being used. Basically, the journey taken by Eren and Zeke this chapter, and likely next chapter, will only be a heartbeat in a time that is taking place in Shingeki. The next panel, which shows the current carnage from the sky of the ongoing conflict at Shingeki, is great, and possibly symbolic as well for the bird pictured, likely either a falcon or an eagle. In Norse mythology, eagles are used as an image of a battlefield and a death that is followed. A falcon, on the other hand, is largely referenced to the goddess Freya, who owns a notable cloak of falcon feathers. This cloak was used in mythology as a means to transport gods from one world to another, so in this case showing the passing of Eren and Zeke to the realm of paths. Or it could simply be a great landscape shot, with the feather possibly appearing later on in the story, touching the ground or river below, presenting the return of Eren and Zeke or the end of the conflict. Moving onwards, we see the predicament and situations of the main cast from last chapter, who have barely moved since we last saw them. The carnage taking place amongst the Malians and transformed Eldians is crystal clear, with many fleeing down streets or stuck on rooftops with no way out. The kickback from the rifle used by Gabi is appreciated to show its raw power also. As many of us mentioned after 119, mostly in memes or in passing about Zeke catching Eren's head, well, it came true, surprise surprise. Unlike that other serious that extremely silly theory people were adamant happened. Cough cough, it's not a real chapter. The fragmentation of Eren's memories and what he has seen to the coordinate become clear here. Many of these are memorable, and some not so much. I'd like to pay particular attention to the shot of what looks like Historia here, showing that both Eren and her have been in contact on screen since we last saw them together, given the way that Historia's face is drawn. We've got a few panels coming from Grisha, a couple from Frida, and even one depicting a young Rod Rice from the perspective of his father. We've also got a panel showing the perspective of Eren Kruger and him witnessing the burning of his family at the hands of Malians. A lot of this opens up so many possibilities as to what Eren has seen and how much we still don't know as a reader. It's clear Eren has seen both inside the minds of previous Attack Titan users and those who had the founding Titan, going back several shifters. The real interesting point here is that we also don't see anything from the Warhammer Titan. Unfortunately, I don't currently have a panel of Eren's memories with official translations, as it's a double spread, but in the bottom left corner, it almost looks like Ymir Fritz as we see her later. Who could this be looking at her, do you reckon? The panel of Eren arriving at the convergence of all paths is my favourite from this chapter. The contrast of Eren in black with the white tree-like trunk is great imagery, of Eren being an imposter, or devil, in a place where he doesn't belong. Evidently, this convergence is in reference to Yggdrasil, the world tree in Norse mythology that connects all 9 worlds together. Naturally, in Attack on Titan, it's the source and connection of all 9 Titan shifters, and through them, and the power of the founder, a connection to all Eldians in the world. The pathways in the sky being a clear indication also to branches as a forms of interlinking all Eldians through paths as a whole. The appearance of Zeke is very reminiscent of the depiction given of Karl Fritz by Willy Tybur, and he also takes an almost messiah-based role, taking Eren down a path to help free his mind from that of their father, Grisha. While this ends up backfiring somewhat, the almost prophet-based appearance and godlike image that is often presented to us regarding Zeke continuously in this manga must be noted here. The actual understanding of how the coordinate works through Royal Blood is something I'd like to discuss in a small base theory video later today and tomorrow, but for now, the general consensus provided by Zeke's monologue states that those who inherit the power of royal blood become contaminated by the vow to renounce war. Yet since he isn't contaminated, he is able to free himself of that burden. As someone mentioned in my livestream reaction, you can see how long Zeke's finger and toenails are, which would hint at the time he has waited for Eren, and it's been quite considerable. Time itself within the convergence is still rather unclear, but it seems that time itself has stopped, but continues aging the person in some way. Or at least in the outside world it stopped. The creation of Zeke's body was new to us in chapter 113, and the confirmation at least from Zeke that Titans are created in this location each time the power of the Titans is used is fascinating. This opens up a range of possibilities regarding the usage of the coordinate and the comments made by Tom Xavier in regards to Titan biology. Eren and his comment, most likely towards Ymir, having spent all her time alone, was interesting, yet rather random. The pause between all this time and alone especially, though I'm likely overanalyzing a simple statement. The surprise that Zeke was testing Eren and his resolve to follow through with his plan was also a surprise. From the beginning of their encounter, the assumption that Zeke was always trusting in Eren and his allegiance was rather solid. Though the start of this chapter shows that with the baseball, perhaps Zeke has always been unsure, and given the current predicament, wanted to confirm his suspicions of Eren all along. Zeke managed to get one up on Eren this time around, like he has done with numerous characters before, as expected of the Boy Wonder, though from a character standpoint, I am glad to see this happen, given his intelligence rating. It's worth mentioning the imagery of Eren being chained up again by a member of royalty, much like he was in Rod Rice's cave, only this time it's Zeke trying to persuade Eren while Ymir looks on, unlike Rod trying to persuade Historia while Eren looks on. Also Kenny. These segments with Zeke genuinely wanting and pleading with Eren to use the Founder, only to break down when Eren tells him to essentially fuck off, are great. At this point, and given his comment about wanting to do it together, I can't hate Zeke in this moment. His position is likely one of two. Either he deeply loves his brother and wants him by his side no matter the consequences, or he, meaning Zeke, is afraid to go ahead alone, showing he needs some attachment or connection that he currently lacks, originally being Tom through his glasses. Despite Zeke's unforgivable acts of violence, his words of wanting to end the bloodshed further fuel that Zeke is doing what he believes to be the right thing to save the world in general, as we have seen countless times him mentioned before. Zeke wants to end the repeated cycle of hatred by the only method he knows how, and given what we as the audience know, it seems like the best case out of a worst case scenario that will unfortunately still end up with the deaths of millions over time, only having long-term effects more beneficial. Eren's revelation telling Zeke his plan is messed up highlights two important things and possibilities. One, that Eren's plan is hopefully less brutal and more humane, or two, Eren hates euthanasia simply because it conflicts with his ideology of being born into the world and moving forward despite the consequences. You could combine both of these points here, but whatever Eren's plan is, it's something that will, as we've discovered on our own recent livestream read-throughs, be the result of a short-term solution that will protect those closest to him. Currently, all fingers point to the Wall Titans. Some of the shading in this chapter caught my eye. You'll notice one particular page where Eren dressed in black stands over Zeke dressed in white. While it's a stretch to argue Zeke is a god, his presentation as a godlike figure, both with the control of the Founder and the way he appears, could be seen as such. In contrast, the appearance and ignorance of Eren could likely present the devil, and Zeke, of course, like I said, the opposite. Ymir Fritz being nothing more than a subservient slave to Zeke and his royal blood is also a strong separation from Eren and his principles and ideals. Eren himself commenting on how his distaste for people without minds of their own is a direct contradiction to Ymir in this chapter. Yet, this is something that Zeke himself comments on towards Eren, saying he is fueled by the nationalistic ideals of Grisha and his memories. In summary, Eren hates people that don't fight for themselves, yet he is in this moment being told by his brother that he is tempted and enslaved by the very mentality of his father and the memories of the Attack Titan. You'll notice the conversation in chapter 112, where Eren comments on Mikasa being a slave to the Ackerman bloodline and Armin being influenced by Bertold. Yet, when Armin calls Eren a slave, he gets frustrated. It begs the question how far Izayama is going to take this ideology of Eren's, and whether Eren is truly free or just believes so strongly he is free but rather isn't. But the former is most certainly more appealing, as we'll soon see. Before moving on to the Grisha flashbacks, I'd like to talk about Zeke's comment regarding the puppet of Ymir being a body of immense power that submits to any with royal blood. Of course, Ymir is presented with vacant eyes, showing a lack of emotion and any real train of thought, and the control over the founding power by someone of royal blood makes complete sense within the history we've learned about regarding Karl Fritz and Prior. If truly the Eldian Empire had lasted for a considerable length of time under one family, it would also be logical that such power over others could never be usurped or controlled by squabbling families. Perhaps Ymir, on her death, gave the power of the coordinate to her 3 children, as they ate her, providing them with the ability to use the Founder, while all other noble houses could not. Though that's rather speculative, I know. The Grisha pages are great context in further further respecting and understanding Grisha Yeager and his mentality and emotions. And while they might not be that difficult to analyse and are rather straightforward, let's go into them in some detail. Grisha's clear regret and dreams about Zeke, as well as lamenting over the photograph in his study, was probably a recurring thing while working on writing his books in his study in Shingeki. In understanding this in a bit more detail, as well as the influence these pages have in understanding the mindset of Zeke and Eren, I'd like to turn to the livestream comments from the discussion and reaction a couple of days ago. Bobby420 says in a great post that we truly see Zeke's naivety and emotional baggage from his childhood, and that it follows him into his adult years, whereas Eren is the complete opposite. Instead of following in his father's footsteps, he follows in his own. This, as Bobby states, is clearly a role reversal from how Zeke had originally intended to start this story into the past. RJ the Poet also presents a great argument about this role reversal, showing how while Zeke was originally shackled and freed himself, and that Eren now is beginning to do the same, only on another level. He further goes on to explain how Eren shows no surprise at the majority of these flashbacks being shown to him outside of Grisha waking up. Clearly Eren has seen these memories himself, and it's rather Zeke who has blindly ignored or not witnessed certain parts due to his emotional resentment for his father. With these comments in mind, and with Eren taking the lead into the next memory, who knows what we will see. Moreover, how will this affect Zeke and his mindset, if at all? Perhaps once these memories have been witnessed, it'll be Zeke that comes out changed, not Eren. This chapter overall was really well written and a great showcase of both the insecurities and relationships of Zeke, Grisha and Eren, as well as some much needed information about the founding power. Within its own contained chapter, the symbolism narrative was stellar, alongside some uncertain drawn shots have me excited to see them animated in the adaptation. This chapter, despite not providing much for many of the fans on the level of high octane action or overly strong plot progression, tells me that Izayama really knows how to write and understand his characters. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to join my Livestream channel for weekly live streams in regards to Attack on Titan and other manga. Join our public Discord server to discuss Attack on Titan and become part of our growing community, and follow me on social media to know when I upload content and go live. Thank you.